Okay, we ready?
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess you're gonna just look at the camera,
Okay.
right? Our interview this morning is with Larry Shetter. Larry was born in May of 1946. He served in Korea and Vietnam. His highest rank attained was E6, Staff Sergeant. He served in the United States Air Force. This interview is conducted at Burleson, Texas. Today is Friday, April the 21st of 2017. My name is Dale Dexheimer. Milton Gibson is also in the room. Milton is our videographer. This interview is conducted for the Veterans History Project at the Library of Congress and also Operation Remember, Burleson, Texas. And with that little introduction, Larry, you can tell us about your time in the U.S. military, sir.
And I believe it was August of 1965, I joined the Air Force. The draft was active at that time, and I got word I was like 3 numbers away from being drafted into the Army. And at that time, everybody was going to basic training and automatically being shipped to Vietnam. No questions. So I joined the Air Force because they would tell you what you were going to train for. They would test you and see what your skills could be. And they told me before I signed the paper and joined, I would be in intelligence. Sounded good enough to me. So I joined for 4 years and went to San Antonio to Lackland Air Force Base for my boot camp. And that was, and I know it was the Air Force and it wasn't as tough as maybe the Marines, but in those days it was pretty crazy. But went through that, came home for a week or so, and they sent me to Vandenberg Air Force Base out by Santa Maria, California. First I went to crypto school up north. I can't remember exactly where it was now, but it was a couple of months to learn to be a cryptographer. And that was interesting because it was crypto top secret security clearance was a pretty big deal. And they did a lot of investigation back in Keller where I grew up. People and everything worked out all right. So I got to Vandenberg, and I was there just a few months. I went to the commander and volunteered to go anywhere in the world because I wasn't happy. I wasn't a surfer, and it just wasn't my way of life. And within 30 days, I got orders to go to Osan Air Base in Korea. I got over there, and I was there for a year, about between 11 and 12 months. And at the end of my tour is when the USS Pueblo was captured. And that was a real interesting situation, being a cryptographer and the stuff you get. And I got a message about it, and all I did was send a message back saying destroy all the equipment because it was exactly the same thing we used. And I assume that message went out to everyone, I don't know. But they could not send me from Korea to Vietnam because Korea was still considered a danger zone in those days. So I volunteered to go to Vietnam because I was 21, 22, single, no children, no wife. I just figured I'd rather something happened to me than some guy that had to have family. So I got sent to Vandenberg Air Force Base. No, I did not. I'm trying to remember Vietnam now. It'll come to me in a minute, my goodness. I get assigned to a year over there. And military, even though I had the top secret crypto clearance, they knew I loved the Korean culture and the people. So they assigned me to be with the Korean Marines up in the mountains looking for snipers. It didn't matter about all that top secret stuff. and I was a radio operator. The Korean troops treated me like royalty. They were just, I just really enjoyed it. And they didn't have any rules, and they were feared. And you know, you see a lot of things that go on, but I just lived with it. It was part of your life, and you just were happy you got up every day. And the Koreans, I got sent back like 5 months early and got out 5 months early because I went from Korea to Vietnam. And the military was gracious enough to let me go ahead and, you know, I didn't want to re-enlist because it was a wonderful experience. One of the best things, Vietnam's one of the best things that ever happened to me as a person. And, you know, I got home and got discharged then, and used my military benefits to go to college. But I went to court reporter school, and they covered all, you know, the bulk of that and everything. So it was a worthwhile time and experience, and it just took a kid and made him grow up. I turned 21 when I was in Korea, and so it was, you know, times were different. When I grew up, you played football and you went in the military. It was a right to manhood. It was just automatic, and you didn't worry about it. And I was proud that I joined the Air Force instead of getting drafted, because I had several friends that were killed. And while I was in Vietnam, an old boy I grew up with at Keller got killed, and that could have been me. The way I always looked at it. So court reporting school, you know, I credit the military with that because that gave me the opportunity to further my education. And you know, life goes on and everything. And 4 years ago, a friend of mine called me that I grew up with at Keller and said he was getting 100% disability from the VA in Agent Orange, because of Agent Orange in Vietnam, because of diabetes. And he said, "Don't you have diabetes?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You got a bad heart too?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Go see." So I went to Cleburne to the courthouse. A lady down there was a VA rep. She told me I was wasting her time. So that friend of mine said, "Go up to Campus Drive to the clinic there in Fort Worth." It was relatively new then, to the benefits office. I went up there. Those guy at the DAV was such a gentleman. Filed my claim. 1 year later, I got granted total and permanent disability and got paid from the day I filed. And that tax-free money every month is just, it's like money from the Lord. And the health care at that Fort Worth clinic is just outstanding. You know, I have to take 20 units of insulin every day, and getting all that stuff for free is just incredible. And I kept Medicare too. Just you know, I want to go to Harris Hospital in Fort Worth. And as far as like accommodations and medals, I got 12 or 15 different things, and they're all for the grandchildren. It's one of the, it's not that I'm not proud of them, I am, but I don't overdo it. Too many people are a little braggadocious about that sort of thing. And World War II people had to bust their tail to get a medal. In Vietnam, in the Air Force, when you finished your third year, you automatically got a good conduct medal. It didn't matter, you know, as long as you weren't in prison, you got one. And there's a lot of things like that, but I got, you know, like in Vietnam, there were some special medals. In Korea, there was some service awards and things that are nice. But like I say, I've got them framed for the grandkids, and that's all that matters to me. And they've been real supportive, and my little 9-year-old granddaughter did a deal at school about Pop being a disabled veteran, and that was almost tearful. It was so sweet, the things I went through with her. So, like I say, it's a good life, and I really feel blessed because Social Security isn't that much money these days. And that money from the VA every month is just, like I say, it's a blessing. And I was up at the clinic the other day there in Fort Worth with the VA, and the nurse said, "Thank you for your service." I said, thank the United States of America for their service to me. I'm getting a better deal than they did. And that's the way I feel. And that's all I can go by is my personal experience. I'm just one guy. But the only advice I can give to like my grandkids, if you're nice, they're nice. That's life. Treat people good. And a firm handshake and a smile will get you a lot of places and into a lot of doors. But that's about all I have. And I just appreciate you guys doing this. It's a valuable service.
Well, that's pretty basic, Larry. You kind of hit the high points.
I
So
understand.
let's go back and look at some of this experience. How old were you when you went down and signed up for the Air Force? Your mom and dad have to sign for you or anything?
No, I think I was 19.
Okay.
My dad died when I was 3. So,
Okay.
and my mom, I think she was just glad to get rid of me. God bless her. And I was 19.
Okay, and you went to Lackland for your basic?
Yes.
San Antonio?
Yes.
Had you ever been away from home, Larry?
Yeah, I'd been to California. I went to junior college out there for a few months, to Glendale Junior College. And I had an aunt and uncle that lived out there that I stayed with.
So you had a year or two between high school and when you went
about
to
a
the Air
year.
Force?
About a year, yeah.
Okay. And you went to California, went to college in that year?
Went to junior college, yeah.
Okay. So you go to Lackland. Little different discipline, I suspect.
Well,
I mean, you said it wasn't like the Marine Corps, but.
I'll put it as gentle as I can, but it's like it was yesterday. I asked the drill sergeant something I thought was an intelligent question. He said, "Troop, you're lower than whale poop, and that's on the bottom of the ocean." I'll never forget it. It hit me. Welcome to the military. And those guys were, in those days, there was no boy from New York City in there with us. Well, he was a Yankee. Oh, that guy was just pitiful to him. I mean, the guy started crying, it was just so brutal. And it just, it was a right to manhood. It's like when you played football in those days, the coach owned you.
You went, what year? That would have been
65 is when I went
65
in.
that you went to San Antonio?
Yeah.
You lived in a barracks, I guess, for what, 16 weeks, Larry?
I don't remember. It was, 12 or 14.
You live in a
probably.
barracks?
Oh, yeah.
Wooden? Brick?
It was wooden.
It was wooden, like
Yeah.
from WW2?
Well, it probably wasn't that bad, but to me it seemed like it. But it wasn't just god awful. The food was fine. You got 3 meals a day.
What time did they get you up in the morning?
Probably 4:30, or sometimes 2. Whatever they wanted to do to you.
And then what'd you do for the rest of the day?
Oh, we'd be out on the drill pad and marching and all kind of different, just exercise a lot. We had one guy die of a heat stroke.
You were there in the summertime, Larry?
Yeah, in August. And it was probably 110 degrees out there on the drill pad. And this old boy was dead when he hit the ground. The drill sergeant was screaming at him about being lazy. The guy was dead.
Well, that'll tell you a little difference in 50 years, won't it?
Well, that's just life. That's just the way things were. It didn't shock me or disappoint me or hurt me. That's what you expected. because you heard some pretty bad stories about things when you're in high school and through, you know, people that went in.
So they took you out and they marched you every day.
Oh yeah.
Went out there on the grinder. And,
Oh yeah.
and then I guess you went to class too, didn't you? Sometime.
Yeah, not much. You know, because my deal, like I say, in the Air Force, I knew what I was gonna go into intelligence, and they weren't. Thank God they weren't training you to kill. I would have had a real tough time with that, because I know a lot of people that were, and it just, to me, I never had a problem with the North Vietnamese or the North Koreans or anybody. And I just thought, why is it all right to kill one of those guys and you can't kill your next door neighbor? In the eyes of the Lord, you know, it was something that, thank goodness, I didn't have to deal with it.
You finish basic and you go up to Vandenberg, and,
Yeah.
and there they I guess you TDY to crypto school.
Yeah, I went to crypto school, you know.
So I don't think we've done maybe 150 of these, Larry, and I don't think we've ever talked to a cryptographer before.
Yeah.
So what was your job as a cryptographer? What are they going to teach you up there?
Well, you work in the communications center, and when I was in there, everything was teletype machines. Computers, if there was a computer, it was the size of this room, you know, and it was all teletype machines. I would get messages they were coded, scrambled, and I had to unscramble messages. That's what you learned, was how to make sense out of things, and it was super top secret stuff.
Was it complicated?
No, not as I remember. I mean, I had some problems before when I was in Korea, but it was because whoever was on the other end did it wrong. So it was pretty basic. And I'm not
Was it detailed?
oh yeah, it's very detailed. And I'm not a mental giant or a wizard, but it's like being a court reporter came easy to me, because like typing, I'd type 90 words a minute. I mean, you know, I was a quick study for that sort of thing. And I enjoyed it. When I was in Korea, I always worked midnight shift, and I was in charge of the communications center. I was the guy. Didn't have
As
to,
in E4, E5?
E4 then. I didn't have to worry about drill sergeants, or I had to worry about the big shots at night. And yeah, in my records, Lord knows, they don't even show me being with the Korean Marines in Vietnam. There's so much that was probably wrong that they had me do, like being a radio operator with a crypto, but I don't fault anyone, because it was a good move on the military's part. They gave you a card that if you got captured by the Viet Cong, they couldn't harm you, you know, all this sort of stuff. And it was just a good experience.
While you were at Vandenberg, which was for A school, I guess, right, Larry?
What's that?
It was for A school when you went to Vandenberg, your advanced school at Vandenberg. And then
No.
they sent you to crypto school
Well, yeah,
from there.
Yeah, just
What was your basic thing at Vandenberg? Were you, I guess, just communication specialist?
just teletype operator.
Teletype. So did you learn both receiving and sending radio traffic, or they taught you more than that crypto machine?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was all teletype stuff.
Okay.
You know, you can get your stuff in, and it was, there's a lot I don't remember. When I was debriefed, when I left Vietnam and got out, I don't know what they did to me. I'm not bitter, it's probably good. And like I say, 4 years ago, I had a stroke. I was out for a month. So there's things I don't remember. I never forgot my grandkids, so that's all that really mattered to me.
On that crypto and in communication, you said teletype. So did your printer feed like full pages, or did you just have the tape?
It'd be a tape.
It was a tape?
And there's a lot of things I don't remember about it because it never seemed that important after it was over. Because God knows I didn't want to remember.
Did you ever read any of that? Well, I guess you got
Yeah.
open traffic, you got confidential, you got secret, top secret.
I got to read everything. You know, and it was better to know what was going on. It's like the Pueblo. You know, you get, you know, it gets your attention and you bust your butt. And you wanted, and I think I was a good troop. I always wanted to do what was best. Not for me, but for the American people, basically.
You mentioned, well, let's see. Yeah, you mentioned Pueblo, so where were you stationed when that was going on, Larry?
Osan.
Osan in Korea,
Yeah.
South Korea.
And see, I was a buddy in the communication center and me they were going to send us up on the border of North and South Korea for a top secret mission. We volunteered. You know, you never volunteer for anything. We both did like idiots. They canceled it, and as a reward, sent us to Hawaii for a week on R&R, just out of the blue. And he had his wife come over to Hawaii and I stayed at Barbers Point Naval Air Station for a week or two. And as time went on, I think that secret mission was probably going to be the Pueblo because of the crypto. I mean, I don't know. You know, it's just something that got in my mind.
We're here in 2017, and a lot of folks maybe who see this interview, Larry, won't know anything about Pueblo.
Oh, I understand that. I wouldn't have known.
Can you give us some basics on
The USS
what
Pueblo, there's only so much I can say, but it was a United States spy ship. It was in the wrong waters. It was in North Korea waters when it got captured. It was our fault. You know, we were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I can't fault the North Koreans. I don't like it. But, you know, it just happened.
The tables would have been turned.
You know, it just happens. And you can't fault the other side. But as I've tried to explain to people, the military is not like a football game. And a lot of people try to look at it like that. It's us against them. It's our team against their team. That's not what it is. And it's you know, we were wrong. But God knows people getting killed and everything and all that stuff getting taken. And the news media wasn't as bad then as they are now, but they were pretty brutal. You know, especially in the Vietnam stuff as that went on. And it's just something that happened. And I never blamed anybody. I mean, when I was at Osan, the North Koreans broke into the presidential palace there in South Korea and tried to assassinate the president and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, there's just stuff that was always happening, and you just try to stay on your toes. And Vietnam was getting all the firepower and the interest when the Pueblo was going on. Vietnam was the deal, and Korea was kind of forgotten. But that's just nobody's fault either, as far as I'm concerned.
We go back to the Pueblo. Ship was in the wrong place in North Korean waters and got captured.
And this is my fault.
Yeah.
I'm not saying under oath.
This is what you remember, how you interpret.
This is how, in my mind.
How long was the ship captured, Larry? Larry? Do you remember?
I don't remember. You know, some people were killed and all our equipment was taken. It was the same stuff we used.
So you were the closest or one of the closest U.S. military installations to where the ship was captured?
Oh, no, we were south of the border, and I don't know how far, but being in the Air Force and the crypto and all that, you know, like I say, God knows how many people could have gotten the message. I never felt like
So you
special.
were not the main relay point between that ship and Washington.
I could never say that.
Okay.
I don't know. I wasn't supposed to know. None of my business. And that's.
But you did read most of the traffic that you saw.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's nothing special about me or where I was or anything. It's just, you know, in your heart, you try to do what's best for the people back home. It's like when all these people talk about when they got home from Vietnam, all the crap they took from people. I never had a problem. But in the news media it was so crazy. When I went to California to my cousin and her husband's house to visit them, and we went to a party, and this guy came up and he said, "I understand you just got back from Vietnam." I said, "Yeah," and he said, "Tell me something. How does it feel to see your friends die?" I said, "If you want to be my friend, I'll show you." And everybody just laughed. That was the only thing that was ever said to me. But I was nice to people. I understood where they were coming from. You know, tried to get along, and I would be honest and give my feelings, and nobody ever faulted me or gave me. But if you got a chip on your shoulder, you can bring things on yourself. That's like this Agent Orange stuff. There's guys suing the government wanting to be paid from the day they got home from Vietnam. To me, I just thank God I got it when I did. I don't care if it was 40 years later. You know, nobody ever promised me, you were in the military, nobody ever promised me anything.
Let's go on. You said that you volunteered to go to Nam.
Yes.
And you went there as a radio operator with a North Korean outfit.
Well, I went over there. I was still a cryptographer. I was still in the communications, and I wasn't with the Koreans all the time. And I think because it probably wasn't supposed to be known.
Where were you stationed in Vietnam?
I can't even remember that gummit.
A major U.S. base though, with a full comm center.
It was a city the size of Fort Worth.
Okay.
I apologize. I've never forgotten that before.
Were these the North Koreans? They pretty tough.
They were mean. They were mean SOBs, and they had no rules. They were feared. But you know what? It's a war. And a lot of that's not a bad thing. And they would slaughter people. I mean, and the thing about what I did, the snipers. I mean, snipers dangerous on both sides. And I would call in airstrikes and firefighters and you know, things like that. And the Koreans would give me the coordinates. They would carry my radio for me. They treated me just like a king and so respectful.
Did you spend a lot of time in the field while you were in Vietnam?
No, just 2 or 3 days at a time, because it was secret. It's not in my records. There's nothing in there showing that I was with the Korean Marines. And, you know, in fact, when I volunteered to go to Vietnam, they told me that I'd never have to pay income tax in my life.
Recruiter told you that?
When I was in Korea, that you know, that they needed crypto people over there. I knew he was lying. You know, my Lord, back in that day, that's what you expected. But now I don't, because of my Agent Orange money, so I guess it all worked out.
So how long did you spend in country in Vietnam, Larry?
Year.
A full year.
Well, 10 months, maybe.
Okay. And came back to the States after your time in Vietnam?
Got out.
Let me back up just a second before I forget it. You said that these North Koreans were brutal. They would do things so that they were feared by the guys on the other side.
Or everybody.
Guys on both sides.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a war.
Did you ever witness any of that, Larry? They're being brutal?
Well, just killing people. Killing, not women or children, but killing like these snipers that were firing at them. I wasn't happy, but I couldn't fault them. Because like I said, I felt like if I was going to be killed, I'd be the last one standing. That's how safe I felt with those guys. And they had a lot of honor. And I just couldn't fault. I mean, there were Americans that did the same thing, that were trained and that were snipers.
When you were in the field with the North, or the North
Korean
North.
Marines. The Korean Marines.
The Korean, yeah.
Are okay.
How was the food when you were with them? If you were spent 2-3 days,
Sea rations.
that's all.
Yeah.
They didn't kill any snakes or eels or anything. And
they would have Korean wine and garbage, and I didn't want. God knows where it came from. And they, I mean, they'd sleep on boards. They're just a different breed, but it's a different country and a different time.
So you got out, you come back to the States. You said your dad died when you were
3.
When you were little. Yeah, okay.
He drowned. Out there on the old home place where I lived on Renfro, there was a tank behind there where he drowned. And I don't remember the man.
Wow. But you came back. You ever do any reserve time, Larry?
No.
No reserve.
I mean, technically I was in the reserves for a period of time, but I never did anything.
But went to court reporter school on Uncle Sam's GI Bill?
Yes.
And you're happy with the VA?
Oh, God bless the VA. I'm telling you, you've got my name and number. I had a year ago, a Fort Worth Star-Telegram reporter called me. She said, I can't tell you how, but I got word you're a big fan of the VA. I said, yes. She said, well, you swear to God you'll be honest with me. I said, yeah. She said, be honest, what's wrong with the VA? I said, the veteran. She said, that's not funny. I said, ma'am, that's my opinion. They've been just unbelievably wonderful to me, but they know I love them. I went up there to get my teeth cleaned. They probably did $5,000 worth of dental work. I mean, they're just so accommodating, and that's why I say if you're nice, they're nice, and that's just life. And she didn't hang up on me, but she ended the conversation.
Well, Larry, thank you for your service. Thank you for coming by to see us this morning.
I appreciate what you guys are doing. Like I say, I never want to make a big deal out of anything. I want the grandchildren to appreciate the United States of America and what it is.
And that's what this is all about.
I don't care who the president is. I supported Obama. I'll support Trump. The VA is worried to death about Trump because historically the Democrats have been better on the VA. History doesn't matter. And being president doesn't matter that much, I don't think. And all I can say is, from my end of it, it's just been absolutely wonderful, and I want to thank the United States for what they've done for me.
Good.